folks. Happy Tuesday. A little impromptu live stream. I thought I would have a little fun and do it since I did do a video a little bit earlier tonight. I'll quickly hit over the chat here. Paul was already ready to go. Good evening, Paul. It is not live from the shores of Lake Superior. That is Dave's department. But I know Dave and Steve are off this week. Dave's taking a much needed vacation, having himself a good time, hopefully. And we'll kind of see from there. I know they'll be back next Tuesday in the usual spots. So I figured, all right, well, we're open. I may as well take the opportunity since we did have some interesting news from our good friends at Beckett. Now, I did make a video about this. Kept it pretty short just to give the highlights. I'll mention a couple quick points about it here. This kind of impromptu stream is open, but it's also going to be shorter than a lot of the usual ones just because it's like, we'll hang out for a bit. My goal isn't to make it a super long one, but at the same time, I did want to chat about it. And I figured instead of making another video where I just talked about the other players and how that affects them, I figured we'd just do it in one live stream and kind of hang out and chat a little bit. So good evening, Yannick. Perfect. Good stuff. Good evening, Bobby. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go over a couple of the salient points. And then what I'll do is, since it is kind of a bonus live stream, I will put the link in I'll put the link in the chat. So if somebody wants to pop on and chat for a bit, we can do that. So I will open it up. That'll be fun. So we'll see what happens here. Sandra Sonora. What day is it? Second shot today. They're concerned about side effects. It might be. This might be a hallucination by you, Sandra Sonora. I can't confirm nor deny. But anyway, since Dave and Steve are off, I figured, all right, well, we got the evening open and we do have some stuff to talk about. So let me quickly go over the main topic. Like I said, I do have a video on it. I did put a link to that in the description if you want the short version. This is going to be the even shorter version. So if you want a little bit of a breakdown, that video covers it, but I'll quickly cover it here. And then I want to touch on some of the other graders as well, because it affects them too. So let me do the share here for you. I won't read you the whole thing because you don't need it. You don't really need it. And you're more than welcome to check it out. So it's basically from Beckett. Now, one thing I didn't mention too closely in the first time around was that with Beckett doing their thing, which is fine, as usual, Beckett kind of does the one thing I don't like to see, and that is their communication is like their thing they've never been good at. So they finally say something, which is good, but they basically hide it behind their plans for the National. It's like, don't bury the lead. The lead is you suspending services. Look, I don't care what your plans are for the National. If you're going to suspend services, it's going to affect things above and beyond the National, but you kind of push it down a couple of lines, below a paragraph, and you start talking about here pre-COVID days and all that stuff. It's like, that's all well and good. I'm very happy for you. But the critical part is when you get down here, starting June the 7th, so less than a week away from where we are right now, June the 7th, they'll suspend all grading submissions other than their premium level, the premium level being the highest level. So they basically imitated what PSA did. Very similar to what PSA did in the sense that they're going to suspend all the other levels, which most likely means there's going to be either a rush to get stuff in because you've still got time. That's basically what happened with when PSA did theirs. They didn't snap decision it. There was a little bit of a carryover. And whenever there's a change, either a pricing change or it's about to be suspended for a bit or whatever's going to happen, there is that delayed reaction. And having that delayed reaction means that you have the opportunity to have a rush of people sending stuff in. They do mention, though, that they're going to recommend all customers using the online form, which is fine. But they also mentioned that they're going to basically send back any of the other levels that get submitted to them so that they can focus on the backlog, which we knew that backlog existed. But the problem is if you weren't paying close attention, you wouldn't know the backlog. Aside of the fact that stuff was taking forever, you wouldn't know the backlog existed because other than a couple of interviews where BGS would acknowledge it like quickly. Again, their big issue isn't that they don't ever say anything, but they say very little. And when they do actually admit to something, they say it kind of on the side. They had an interview where they talked about the counterfeit, where they talked about that whole counterfeit slab some time ago. And in the course of that conversation, they followed up with, oh, by the way, we're going to be raising prices. Don't try to be sneaky. Raising prices is kind of a thing people are paying attention to. You can't sneak that in there. People are going to notice, but it happens. So anyway, good evening, Autograph Vault. Yep, absolutely. PSA did in fact do that. That is correct. There you go. Korean Cardboard, good evening. I will store cards I want to get graded PSA for my PC until affordable bulk submission again. No hurry. Yeah, and I think as a tactic, if you're a collector and you don't have a reason to be in a rush, obviously you'd love to get your stuff sent in and get it back in a reasonable time period. But right now, if you're a collector, just hold on to your stuff. There's really no reason to. Really, a lot of this needs to shake out. A lot of folks who are desperate to have cards graded because they need to turn around and make more money, this is going to hurt. It's going to squeeze them very tightly. And that's okay, because it's going to let stuff shake out in the market. Let it happen. As a collector, if you can sit patiently and wait, this may be to your benefit in the long run, because it'll shake out some of those weak hands in the market, get them out, and then maybe you can actually submit your collector stuff and get it back in a semi-reasonable time period. So we'll see. So Paul here. So I feel like Beckett's communications department is using Internet Explorer. I wish they were using Internet Explorer. I think they're using Lycos. Or, sorry, Netscape. Let's go back to Netscape, if we will. But, yep. Are you using Internet Explorer to communicate things? Yep. So good evening, Dave. Yeah, he's supposed to be on vacation, but we hear from Dave here and there, off in the distance. I think you can hear him yelling from the distance from Lake Superior, so you can definitely hear. But so that's the Beckett piece. Now, quick thing I want to talk about. I mentioned in the title. Let's talk about the state of grading. So we know Beckett is doing this now. They're imitating PSA. That's going to have an impact, because Beckett, no matter where you want to position them, they're one of the top ones. They're one of the big ones, because you don't have a backlog if nobody sends you stuff. So people are sending them stuff, therefore a backlog. Therefore, this is a reaction to the backlog. And now, what happens after that? It's not just Beckett. It's like, okay, now what about the rest of you? Yeah, so good evening, Bless and Breaks. It could very well be, potentially. So let's talk about the other players. I'm going to focus in on the main ones. PSA, obviously. Beckett, SGC. I'll include CSG in there as well, since they've kind of made a big splash, so they're kind of hanging in there. And then we'll talk about HGA just for fun. Those are the 5 I'm going to focus on. Any of the other ones, I'm not going to bother with. We always like to make fun of KSA and M&T and whatever, but they're not players. They're not really players. And GMA, forget it. If you just want a holder, then go get a one-touch. Save yourself the time. We're not even going to bother with that. I'm hesitant to even include HGA, but they've made a splash, even though they're in no position to do anything. They got their own struggles, but I will mention them briefly. So let's talk about CSG for a second. Well, CSG is the next potential shoe to drop. Why? Because they're already struggling, and for them, they're not screaming it from the heavens, but like the proof is in the pudding. This is from CSG's own site here. They've still got bulk open. Well, bulk is showing right now the current working days turnaround is approaching 200 days. I'm confident they're over 200 days now. So how long until CSG says, yeah, we got to close off all of them except for walkthrough and unlimited walkthrough? Basically do the same thing. They could be the next one to follow suit. I don't know how much stuff they've been getting, but they're certainly a candidate to follow through. Now, the interesting thing for me to watch, the fun piece for me, so that's CSG. They could very well be the next shoe to drop here. Yeah, exactly. No GMA. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I wish it was Friday, Josh, but we had a little bit of an opening. So Dave and Steve are having the week off. So and the Beckett thing happened today. So I didn't want to wait all the way until Friday. So I thought today would be a good day just to chat for a little bit and hang out with you guys for a bit. We'll chat about some stuff, and then we'll call it a night. And then if anything else happens or anything else of interest, we can talk about it more on Friday. So that's CSG. They could very well be the next shoe to drop. Okay. What about SGC? What about, SGC? Right now, all is calm in SGC waters. They even did the video with Sports Card Investor where they showed off their new wonderful building, because everybody's got a building. But they talked about in the course of their communications now that they can do about 4,000 cards a day, which is pretty good. That's not nothing. That's pretty solid. And right now, from all the different videos I've watched, different folks have been submitting stuff to SGC, and they're getting it back in pretty reasonable time. That's awesome. That's not a bad thing. Some of the stuff I say may seem like, oh, I'm being negative with some of these. No, that's good. But it also tells me they're not getting pushed to capacity. It tells me that despite the good word of mouth, the 1,000,008 times that they stubbed their own toe, the 1,000,008 times that they shot themselves in the foot, have been a factor in the market. That people don't seem to care that, yeah, real quick turnaround time. But it's like, that's great. Quick turnaround time. We don't care. Now, if you're as a collector, there's nothing wrong with SGC slabs. I have some in my collection. I would not hesitate to buy an SGC card. The premium I would pay would be minimal. My preference is mainly for vintage for them. But would I get an SGC modern card? Certainly. A couple of my Sotos are in SGC slabs. I bought a couple here and there. They're nice slabs. My 53 Topps Mantle is in an SGC slab. I have no hesitation and no issue with their grading, their authentication. It's solid. No issue there. Awesome. But basically the end result is when they do it, and I'll touch on a couple of them here. So quickly, Dave's here. Plus, there's no other show on Tuesday. Correct. Besides RP, so there's a place to drop this big news. Exactly. So yeah, Bless and Breaks, a brand new billion for great companies, equivalent of push-up bras, a whole lot of nothing. Correct. So yeah, I'm touching on this one right now. So I'll leave it on the screen here since I'm talking about it. The turnaround times, that's awesome. The reason those turnaround times are that good is because not a lot of people are sending it SGC. Not in the volume that's causing them any issue. Now, I said CSG may be the next shoe to drop because they're already falling behind. They've already got a backlog. SGC right now, they're solid. You send the stuff in, it comes back out pretty quick. That means to tell me they have excess capacity. But we know it's 4,000 cards, which isn't actually a lot. 4,000 cards a day in the context of the way the hobby has been is not a lot. So if SGC is able to just flip it and turn it around, that means they have excess capacity right now. So what happens if CSG becomes unviable? Beckett is taking themselves out of the game. PSA is already out of the game except for that high end. And, HGA has a cap every week, which is very low. I think it's about 8,000 cards a week for them. For SGC at least is 4,000 cards a day. But what happens if they start getting 6, 7, 8,000 cards per day coming in? So they're able to get 4,000 cards out at maximum capacity running on all cylinders, but 6 or 8,000 are coming in, and all of a sudden they start developing a backlog. If they get 2 days worth of work and they're only able to send out 1 day's worth of work, well, they immediately start falling behind, and all of a sudden those turnaround times start creeping up. Last time when PSA did their move, SGC was fast. They were quick on the trigger. They went from $25 to $75. So CSG is in a little bit of trouble here because their turnaround time is already creeping up to 200 days in the bulk level. If they start pulling some of those levels, then even more, basically all the grading may funnel to SGC by default because HGA isn't going to take anything from them. They're having their own struggles too. So if everything funnels to SGC, all of a sudden it's fully self-fulfilled prophecy. SGC finally gets the dream. You are the number one grader in the hobby. You don't have the capacity to handle that. The second that occurs, you are no longer able to do that. What if you have to shoot your price back up to $75 or $100 or $150 or whatever level you have to push it up to basically shut the door and stall it? And all of a sudden you're sitting there where cards are coming out of these grading companies and almost nothing is coming in except the absolute high end. That's going to be an interesting outcome because you're going to have more cards feeding out into the market while the amount intaking is actually minimal. And then PSA's spot on this, they have to kind of sit back and chill, kind of keep doing their thing. They already laid the groundwork. For them, if they can get their house more or less in order, they can come back and be like the hero of the hobby in the sense of reopening some of those levels. They don't have to go all the way down to the bulk level. Ideally, they would, but I don't think they'll be ready for that in July. Not by the National. But they will do the walkthrough at the National. You'll be able to submit the on-site grading. So will Beckett. Even with this announcement, Beckett will do on-site grading because on-site grading is on-site. They'll accept whatever they can finish it all on that day or in the next day, and then get it back to you the next day at the National. And then, all right, get out of here. That's free money for them. They got the encapsulation machine on site. They can take care of all that business, make some money, and get out of there. I did see that in the social media, some people complained about that, but it's like, that's free money for those guys. And it's not really going to affect your turnaround times on the stuff you're submitting because guess what? The people they're putting out there are grading it right in the spot, basically sending it right out the door as it's coming in. And then they're making some extra revenue out of it without adding to the backlog. I can understand the idea that, oh, well, those are graders that could be doing other. Those companies like money. What can I say? Stalling you back another couple of days isn't going to make that much of a difference when it's taking 6 months to a year. But obviously I can see why people would be upset about that. I understand. But the bottom line on this piece for the SGC, I don't care if they turn it around in 2 days. I don't care if they get, teleporter technology and you send it and as soon as they submit it in, they teleport it back onto your front porch within minutes. Until enough people care about SGC to actually send it in bulk, and the fact they can turn around that time is telling me they're not. They're the only people in the hobby who have access capacity right now. Everybody is overwhelmed to the point they have backlogs, and SGC seems to be the only one who has the quick turnaround time, which is to say not a lot of people are using it. Not by comparison to their capacity. Yeah, there's always KSA and M&T when it trickles down. Yeah. If you have to go to KSA and M&T, may I suggest a one-touch? Just use one-touches. They're great. See? It's one-touch. It's great. It doesn't require turnaround time. You just have to get your hands on supply. Probably is a better use of your time. And to be honest, there's no premium with those. You'd probably be able to, if you want to sell a card, you're probably better off selling it in a one touch anyway. So there you go. So that's it for that. I wanted to chat about those specific ones. The upshot of all of this really is that it's a domino effect. PSA already pushed the first domino down. It pushed over to Beckett. It pushed over to CSG. They've been bearing the brunt of this, but now Beckett is tapping out, and that's going to push even more pressure on CSG. Well, if CSG also taps out, then SGC is basically the last real player standing because HGA is already at capacity. They hit their cap every single week already, and they have their own issues with that. So they're not really going to help you. So the end result is SGC basically is the last one standing by default. These other players in there, like, they can absorb whatever capacity they can absorb, but does the market care? You know, if a GMA 10 falls in the forest, does it make a sound? The answer is no. No one cares about GMA. I wouldn't pay any premium, even if it has a card that I want. Doesn't mean I wouldn't buy the card, but I would treat it basically like a raw card because the holder means nothing to me. But that's just me. That's my opinion, and that's my approach. Just wanted to throw that out there. So I'll leave it open if you guys have any thoughts or comments on it. I did see that the COMC did have a post. I'll talk about it really quickly, but I scanned through it and it made me laugh. As usual, COMC never fails to amuse. So I'll talk about that one real quick here. All right, COMC company update, June 2021. So that is from today. So there you go. We'll get your latest and greatest. So from Julia Getch. So it isn't from Tim, it's from Julia. A lot of this is blah, 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 blah. If you want to read it, you're more than welcome to. It's blog.comc.com. You are more than welcome to read that. But here's where we get to the important part. For full transparency, in March 2020, we shipped over 25,000 packages. At least they talked about packages instead of cards, which is good. An average ship time of just under 3 days. That's wonderful. How long did it take you to pick it? That's probably longer, but anyway. While our capacity has steadily increased over the months, our average ship time has gotten worse due to transitioning, onboarding the new location, the new building that you can see from space. For perspective, in May 2021, COMC broke a record by shipping 45,000 packages. And while this is great news, we're working on getting our shipments out in a more consistent, reliable time frame. So in other words, we're trying. It's getting better. We're hiring more people. We're shooting for 400 by the end of 2021. Each card is individually barcoded. We've increased our customer support with 10 new hires. And we've got more support roles on site dedicated to expediting orders. In other words, everything, if you remember the interview with Tim Getch from Sports Card Live, where he talked about basically every single one of those things we talked about before, we're still doing them. Still a work in progress. We're trying our best. I don't know if that was worthy of an update outside of simply showing you something, but there it is. And if you don't believe me, you can read it. Like I said, it's blog.comc.com. You can check it out yourself, and you'll see that it's a whole lot of nothing. It's a press release where literally you could have said that stuff we were saying we did before. We're still doing it, still working on it, work in progress. We'll update you. You could have pretty much written it in about 3 sentences, and it would have covered everything that you said there without all the extra fluff. They did buy a machine. That is true. Honestly, jokes aside, I like to pick on COMC. It's so much fun. But honestly, all they would have had to say is, we're making progress towards our goal. We think we're on track to get this cleaned up by the end of 2021. Or we're not on track, or we're making great progress towards it. But like a progress thing compared to the goal would be good, because right now it's this nebulous thing. We don't actually know. Okay, so, PSA came up with a thing where they said, we'd like to have some of these levels back by July. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But even if they return a couple of levels, they could argue that they had some kind of success. It helped reduce some of the backlog, whatever. With COMC, it's like, we're trying, we're doing stuff, and it's like, we believe you. You've been saying that for months, over a year, and change. And yet, how far along are you? 30%? 40%? Are we waiting for the machine? What are we doing? Yeah, and COMC ran out of top loader for months. Yep, can't even request my shipment. That's really unfortunate. But yeah, it's one of those things, like, it hasn't been that impressive. And I can update you guys. I made an order through eBay to try the COMC, consignment, which is supposed to be the faster one. I can tell you they managed to hit within the time period they're allotted, which is about a month that they said they would ship it out by. So they did do it within that time period. Here's the problem. It's eBay. A month sucks. yes, you hit the target that you set, but for me, the target is not, no, the target is you ship it out to me within a couple of days to a week. Most eBay sellers have to do that. COMC is special. They get to wait about 3 or 4 weeks. The good news is that they did ship it out within 3 or 4 weeks. By the way, I cheated a little bit because I actually used the US address on Ship My Cards to expedite the process. So I think that's probably why I was able to get it. And right now it's sitting with Ship My Cards. I haven't sent it my way yet. So I have to add a couple more days of turnaround time. However, I'm not going to put that on them. I'm going to put it on Ship My Cards, which is fine. But like, that's it. It's not, I found myself in an interesting spot where technically you promised a turnaround time that is slower than eBay standard, and you met your time frame, but not a normal eBay time frame. So I'm sitting there like, okay, so do I give you a negative because you were slow? Do I give you a positive because technically I got the card within the time frame you said you would deliver it to, so you did meet that? Or do I put a neutral because like that isn't anything to brag right home about because you managed to get me the card within a month in the same country as opposed to international? If I had done it for Canada, I promise they would not have hit it. So I'm at a loss as to what to even give as feedback. It's like, yeah, I got my card within the time frame that you said you would, but the time you said you would was a lot slower than what it should be from eBay. So did you meet it? I guess. Sure. Technically. Not something I'd brag about. Here we go. Still don't know what the hell this machine does. No one does. Yeah, your best. Losers always want about doing the best. Winners go home. Nice. Nice, Paul. Nice. Good evening, Rick. So the big dog COMC said they would catch it by December. Not holding breath. Yeah. That was, I think, in the same interview that he talked about that. That's why I say, as far as a COMC update, I would have loved, if December is the target, I would love to see, if you're going to do an update, tell me how you're doing relative to that target. If your target is to get back to quote unquote normal by December or by the end of the year or by the new year, January 1st, for example, awesome. How are you doing in relation to that? Is it going well? Are you behind schedule? Are you right on target? Are you ahead of schedule? Like, that's an update. Just repeating what you already said and giving a couple more numbers, that's transparency without actually being transparent. It's kind of cheating. It's not really what we asked for. I actually want to know how you're making out in relative to some kind of target, as opposed to you just telling me, yep, we're doing stuff. It's getting faster, guys. And it's like, yes, I expect it to get faster, but thank you for sharing? Question mark. Good to know. Good to know it's getting faster. Good to know you're trying, guys. Appreciate it. You guys, the COMC we don't understand apparently and don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Tim's always good for that. He basically says, you guys don't understand. It's like, trust me, no one understands. No one understands because you don't say anything. Machining things that produce machinery results in the world of machines. I think that's a good synopsis, Autograph Vault. That is an excellent synopsis. Good job by you. Speaking of everyone else, the guys listing hockey cards in West Virginia with local pickup only. Interesting. That's weird. I don't know why anybody would do that. Kind of odd, but okay. All right, guys. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm open to hanging out for a bit. So I covered the main things that I really wanted to make sure I covered. That was the key thing for me. So let's do the following. I am going to put the link in the chat, and I'm going to pin it, and we'll hang out for a little bit, and we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We can talk about the stuff, the grading stuff, the COMC stuff. COMC is really nothing's changed, or anything else you like. We can hang out for a bit, and if you want to come on, you're more than welcome. We'll keep it to a reasonable time frame today, but I figured we'd hang out for a little bit and chat, as opposed to just making a regular video. I thought it'd be a little more fun. So what do you guys want to chat about, or what's going on with you? So I'll give you guys a minute. And actually, I've alluded to it a couple of times before in the live stream as well. But for those of you guys out there that are still actively collecting, obviously we know about prices and different things and different stuff. But for those of you rank and file collectors who are collecting, regular stuff all over the place, how are you finding things? Are things still kind of expensive for you? Have prices stabilized? Did they never really move for you? Personally, for my collecting purposes, a lot of the stuff has stayed pretty much the same. There are certain pieces that certainly have gone up in value. I definitely had a couple of rarer pieces. For rare pieces, I'm more accepting of it. That definitely have pushed. I was going after a card from the Cup the other day that was out of 9. So that is a very tough piece. And it went and it pushed 400 Canadian, which is high, but higher than it's been, certainly. I know I could have gotten that card a lot cheaper maybe a year ago, but that's understandable. But a lot of the other stuff is going at pretty much normal price. So it's not an across the board, everything's double. That's not true. Not even close to true. But it's been okay on the whole, but there's definitely the tougher pieces I'm definitely getting more challenged on for sure. So there we go. Twice in the last 3 weeks, I glanced at an auction, placed a bid win, and then it turns out an ordeal because I'm the idiot for wanting a piece of cardboard. Right. That's a West Virginia thing, I get you. Okay, here we go. I keep hearing from everyone this isn't a crash, it's a correction or dip, but I think people don't understand what a crash means. Yes. Yes. One of the great joys of my time the last couple of months has been the amount of people who speak with stock market verbiage, but don't actually understand that these terms have meanings. There are meanings in these terms. And sometimes the meaning of these terms is actually a lot simpler than they think it is. So that could be an interesting thing. So I'm just grabbing here, see if I can pull this up. And I see these other comments here, so I'll grab it. Okay, here we go. But I generally agree with you. Okay, I like this one. Thoughts on eBay changing the retracting bids process? I like it. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it's good. The only thing I say, though, is it doesn't fix yet the problem of people winning, even paying, even receiving their stuff, and then having buyer's remorse because of prices and then forcing a return upon you as the seller. That's still in play. Removing the illegitimate retracting bid is actually a good thing because the whole thing is supposed to be, and I understand the counter argument about error. What if I key in the wrong thing? But eBay used to be, hey, a bid is a binding contract. By the way, as a seller, if I sell it and I sold it cheap, I'm supposed to honor my side of the deal. I'm supposed to. As a bidder, you make the bid, you're supposed to honor your side of the deal. But if you make, it's a $10 card and you bid $1,000, it's not really going to affect you unless the underbidder goes to $999. In which case, I guess it was worth $1,000. That is possible. But the retracting bid thing prevents somebody from bidding super high to basically scare everybody away and then retract that bid at the last possible second to basically push the price back down to the level they actually wanted to pay in the first place, which is shadiness. That is something that people have done to manipulate it and mess around with it. You can still mess around once you complete the auction, but it is one less mechanism. It's like the only thing eBay has done that's seller-friendly in years. So I guess that's something. Okay, so really at this point, dabbling in soccer auctions. Fair, buy it now is still priced too high on almost everything. That's fair. I like, now as a seller, I like the tactic of having a pretty high buy it now, but with the best offer to kind of feel out what people want to do. But usually what I'll do in order to make my life easy is I'll set it so that, you can auto reject prices that fall below a certain threshold. So I don't want the tire kickers. So I set it at a price where it's like, look, if you go below this, you're just tire kicking. I don't even want to waste my time with you. But there's still a lot of inexperienced bidders. And I'll give you guys a quick story about that. But sounds like the Nationals a go. Yep. That was also what precipitated the Beckett update. So they started talking about the National and then squeezed in the bit about shutting down those other service levels. Yeah, so who's going? So I'm out because Canada. So we'd have to quarantine on the way back, and that's a no-go for me. But you should bring your production crew with you. I think everybody else will, so you may as well. Do HD video, Rick. Come on. We need 4K. For collections prices have stayed the same, as long as it's not sought after set rookie. Yeah. But that's been kind of my argument for a while, is that unless you're collecting the hot thing, most stuff has stayed pretty stable, even while the market was going crazy and going up. Obviously, some other stuff did move up, but it wasn't that dramatic for a lot of stuff. It just depends. It just depends. Now, one thing I was going to mention is kind of playing off what we said a second ago. A stock market crash historically has been something could go down 20 or 30% in a day, and that's considered a crash. And in that context, cards crash all the time. They shoot up super high, and then they come back down. That's normal. What happened to GameStop? It had that ridiculous run up because of all this stuff going on, and then, boom, crashed, and then shot up, and then crashed. But it's because it's an individual stock, no one cares. But if it was the overall market, the S&P 500 or something, then, if people freak out. But in cards, it's not that simple. There's so many cards. What if your card's $100 and then after the quote unquote crash, it's $95? That's not a crash. You don't care that much if that's the case. But if a card goes from $100 to, $40, then, oh my God. But the problem is it started at $5 a year ago. So you're actually up by quite a bit still. So it's not quite the same thing as a crash in the traditional sense. Perspective is key, I think, in that regard. So DW Fulker. So good evening. Curious, KSA or Mentee, for example. Why don't people like them? Bad quality, lower grading standards. For KSA, it's lower grading standards, bad quality slabs. And as a result, they grade a lot of junk, so they have no respect. MNT probably has a better reputation, but at the same time, they're a regional grader. So it's one of those things where like people are just looking for off-brand graders because it's cheaper and because they can submit a bunch of junk in bulk. So if that's all they're grading, to put it this way, when it comes to the grading side of things, market perception is everything. If all you get is low-end cards because you're the one that's left and no one wants to send you like a really high-end stuff, you're going to develop a reputation for being like a bargain basement grader. And then you won't get, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't get a lot of high-end cards, so therefore people don't associate you with that. As a result, no one else wants to send high-end cards. They don't want to be the first. They don't want to be the guinea pig. So you never grade any good stuff. So after a while, it's just like, oh, these are the guys that grade all that junk. Well, then you become associated with that. And it's like, well, then your secondary market prices are no good. So then if you're a seller, why would you send it in if it costs you even $10 or $15 to grade, but it doesn't even add $5 to the price of the card? What was the point? If you want it for your collection, put it in any holder you want. It doesn't make a difference. But as a result, it's never going to get any traction. And like I said, KSA graded a bunch of junk for a long time. They did grade junk, and the grading standards were terrible. Like you could get a KSA 10 on nothing. And if you see enough cards like that, like you're going to look at it and go like, oh, you guys grade junk and you do a bad job of it. Why would I buy your stuff or pay any premium on your stuff? Some people will, but that's just because they don't know any better. So hopefully that answers your question. And again, I'm not alone in this. I don't think I'm the only one, but that's the main reasons why I steer away from those. So I've did a YouTube video of a fake PSA slab. Yep, card porn. That is right. So the one in question, and I'll see if I can pull it up here for you. What I would say, I don't think PSA has too much to worry about that for that one yet. Mainly because the example, the card itself, it looked like an absolutely terrible slab. Like it was a pathetic attempt at an imitation. But don't be shocked. Like I'm not shocked if they get better over time. That would not surprise me. I think this is the one. Yeah, here we go. I'll see if I can share it with you guys here. Let me do that. So this is the one I think you're talking about, Sanderson Orr here. So it's for this Luca. Now the issue is twofold. There's some speculation the Luca card itself may be a fake as well. But the big problem is that they're doing this holder. Now here's the thing. If you take a look at the holder, it might be a little hard to tell. I don't know if you can see, but this label here doesn't even fit. Like there's this huge gap on the left and the right of it. It's not even close. So it's like, yeah, it's an attempt. Not a particularly good one, but it's an attempt. And here's the back. Like that label, like you can literally see white on the left side here of the back of the label. So it's a pretty crummy label. The thing for them is that they did use, I believe, a legitimate number, but it looks like you basically printed it on a dot matrix printer. The key is going to be how good. So if I was PSA, what I'd do is I try to get a hold of the slab itself, if you can get a hold of one of these, and see if you can do it. And if you manage, yeah. So we'll quickly grab here. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can get real serial numbers by finding pictures of the actual card. That part I don't doubt. But it's going to be a matter of how good the fake is as far as the slab itself. If you know anything about these PSA slabs, you look at this from 5 miles away and you know it's no good. Just one look at that label, it's junk. I don't care if the serial numbers match, because you can go to eBay and find serial numbers. Usually the people that make these fake slabs are lazy, so they don't even bother. They just do fake numbers. But you can get real numbers for these cards. Some of these cards are common enough. Even this one's out of 99. You can get more. You can definitely get more. So quickly I'll skip through. The Great Bull Crash of 2020. Correct. Korean Cardboard here. Mainly collect 2 players. One is semi-retired star, who's now more due to COVID with new money coming in. Didn't help he got 11% on first ballot. Didn't have to compete with his cards before. No, that's fair. Well, there's definitely some where you're going to see some movement on it. It's not across the board, though, is basically the key that I try to convey on that. The Pinnacle across Project 2020 keeps shorts. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, good. I'm glad to see that. Blessing breaks. I was actually the one to notify Cardporn about the fake Luca. Cool. No, that's good. I'm glad. Cardporn does a good job usually of at least getting the information out there. So that's nice. But yeah, no, definitely if that's the case, it'd be nice if they gave you some credit. So, you know, but good on you. Good on you for keeping an eye out. It's good to know this stuff. Like, I'm not favoring any of the graders over the other. I try to just look at it objectively. PSA still has the best secondary market value. And until they don't, when that happens, then somebody else can take over a spot in the hobby. It can take over that top spot. But right now, all the players have their issues for different reasons. COMC fluff email too. I did not, but I did look at the blog. And good evening, Hockey Guy. So what's worse, there's another guy in the group who had an ungraded real Luca out of 299, was trying to pass it off as a fake. A video of him putting on a show saying the card is his client's. Okay, ungraded real, and was trying to pass it off as a fake. Okay, interesting. Why? Okay, cool. Fair enough. Okay, let's stick here. So good evening, Ziggy. He handed the foreman was fake. I notified. Okay, no, that's cool. Appreciate that. Blessing breaks. Just trying to get caught up on the comments here, guys. I've seen cards in KSA the 9, 5, and 9. You can see a ding corner. Yes, and that's the reality, and that is the reality. Okay, so you're listening to Beckett Media talking about the changes in Industry Summit and National Beckett Live. Good stuff. Okay, sounds fair. Tell breakout cards too. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I think it's good to get the information out there because, like I said, PSA is not infallible, and we're not going to pretend they are. All the grading companies have challenges, and they all have major issues. So that is a fact. That is a fact. And if you do that, it's usually better. Sure. Yeah, just send it to the send the link to my Instagram, and I'll check it out. See what I can do. Day with the Cup Medano. Yes, I think that's the Upper Deck one. I think that's the Upper Deck insert. I have seen those. I think they're cool looking cards. I just don't know. I've seen a number of them, and it's one of those things where a lot of them, I think they try to put the price right up high right away, and it's like, it's a nice card. I don't know if I pay more than 20 or 30 bucks for it. So it's like, why? It's one of those things where I'm trying to focus mainly on playing days cards, but I'll definitely pick it up if I can get it for a price that I'm happy with. I just don't feel like it's that rare. I feel like I've seen a fair number of them at this point. But it's a real cool card. I like it. I do appreciate the cup-themed cards. Sounds good. Blessing breaks? Sounds good. I do like checking stuff out when I can to try to get an understanding, but it is what it is. Let's see here. The box filler cards insert in Series 1 and 2. Oh, that's cool. Sounds good. Cool, cool. What's my IG? Right there. I always have it on the screen whenever I don't have a comment up. It's always on the screen. Very good. So yeah, one other thing I was going to say about that. Like I said, the same thing I said when Beckett was having its issues with the fakes. I think the critical thing for the grader is to get the stuff in, examine it, see how good it is or how bad it is, but at least understand what's out there. If I was PSA, I'd be trying to get my hands on those slabs or at least a couple of examples, just so you understand either A, they're really good copies, in which case you want to keep your eye out, or they're really bad copies. But either way, it's good to get the information out there. You should lead by getting the information out there going, hey guys, so want to keep an eye out for this stuff. In this case, like I said, that fake example is really terrible. that label is like not even close. I don't care if the serial number matches. The label's too small. Now, it is such a simple mistake that you would think they would realize, hey, just put it in the proper proportion. But the good news is sometimes the counterfeiters are dumb. We'll see what happens going forward with a lot of these, and we'll go from there. But you know that it's plastic. So somebody can always make a mold out of it and figure out a way to do it. And then it's going to be the diligence of people in the hobby to pay attention. Yeah, and this kind of summarizes it in a nutshell. If you can make a fake slab with font label, but you don't make it the right size, yeah? Sometimes it's dumb stuff though. Like that's where Beckett, I think, failed themselves because they had that video and we talked about it months ago on the stream. I said the part that made me laugh was that Beckett themselves was trying to find certain indicators and markers, but then they acknowledged that they didn't have a consistency in certain aspects of the slab. So they could be like, so you could see two slabs that would be inconsistent with each other and go, actually, those could both be legit. And I go, that is terrible quality control. That's not good. It should be consistent. You should be able to identify and say, if I see these hallmarks, then it's a fake. Or if I see these hallmarks, it's real. You as the third-party grader should have the confidence to be able to say definitively, yes, these are the things to keep an eye out for. But if you can't say that and you're like, oh, that's not good. You don't want variations in what's supposed to be the real ones. So yeah, BJS didn't have a dot. How hard is it to fix? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was the one that killed it for me. That's why I say Beckett's communication has been historically bad. So when they published this thing, even this story that precipitated that video earlier today and then this live stream tonight, they did the same thing. They told you a piece of information that you want to know about as a potential consumer, but then they hid it behind talk of the national. It's like, no, don't bury the lead. The lead story is you guys are closing some of the service levels. You should probably lead with that. Don't tell us, oh, by the way, we're grading with we're grading great at the national. We're happy to participate in the national, blah, blah, blah. By the way, we're closing a bunch of the service levels during the 7th. What? Wait, what? Why did you bury that a couple of paragraphs down? That's the lead story. That's not the back page story. What's wrong with you? Anyway. No worries. Appreciate it. I'll definitely check it out and see what's up. And then if it's something we can definitely bring up, I'd be happy to. No worries. Yeah, whoever's in charge of QC for Beckett isn't too bright. Yeah, there's a lot of questions I have. That's what I said. None of these guys are flawless. PSA has made huge missteps. You don't get a huge backlog that forces you to shut down, aspects of it without having, you had opportunities to do stuff earlier to prevent that. The current guys that own it are pretty smart guys, but now you're going to have to deal with the problem that you inherited. Your job is to figure out a way to not make it worse and then figure out a way to work around it. The Beckett guys, it's just, you're carrying on, you're basically using Beckett's name and the company's already been sold a couple of times. So it's like, you're going to deal with what you got. Yeah, the owner of Beckett's the worst venture capital money ever. Yep. Exactly. Nothing to see here. Move on. Yep. 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Because the company is no longer owned by, when Beckett owned it, it wasn't perfect either, by the way. But when Beckett owned it, at least it was his name on it. So he's the one who had to answer for it. Nowadays, he doesn't have to answer for it anymore. It's his name, but he sold it, and then they resold it. So it's not 100% his problem anymore. So you can go yell at Jim Beckett as much as you want. He goes, it's not my company. I don't have any control. They bought the name. I have no say in this matter. But it's not a good look, especially for one of the main players. So Bobby, if you're good, just nod. Good evening.
Hey.
How's it going?
You can hear me clear?
Good. I can hear you clear. First shot today.
All right.
Look at you. How's it going?
Everything's good.
Yep. Yeah. I'm going to do a little bonus live stream tonight. I figured since Dave and Steve are chilling today, so I figured I'd pop in.
Yeah, we'll compensate.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
Yep.
I waited a little while. I was working on the book.
No worries. Like I said, it was one of those things. I was thinking about it a little earlier. As soon as the Beckett thing came up, though, and it came across my screen, I was like, oh, I'm going to make a video on this.
Certainly worth it. Although I don't really, I don't hold much animosity towards SGC or Beckett.
No.
It's the compensation. Like, how much money do you really invest into growing when PSA comes back into business? They're just going to go back to their normal run, I guess. Or how many? Like you were saying, what SGC does 4,000 cards a month or something like that.
It's 4,000 per day is what they got themselves.
A day, I mean, sorry, yeah.
Which is not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's not like nearly enough to make up for the difference.
That's their business model, and they're actually, if they're going at that click, then hey, that's fine. And the compensation, if it was natural, I could see they should expand. But at this point, they're just going, well, once PSA's back, then it'll just go back to normal. So would they really gain much more business by investing that much more money? I don't think it would be a great investment.
Well, I think if you're talking
But
SGC,
yes,
I would say the to me, because originally before we went into all of this, my thought process was, because before Nat Turner went in and joined the group to buy PSA, my thought process was it probably made more sense to buy an SGC and work them up to the number 2 slot. I felt that there was an opportunity to become the number 2, and if you became a solidified number 2, there's plenty of money to be made there.
sure.
There's plenty of room, and you could be high and you could be profitable. And it's easier to start off at, because when SGC started the pandemic, they had a really small staff.
Oh yeah.
So relatively speaking, it would have been very cheap to purchase the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. And then, all right, guys, you've at least got a track record. We're not starting from scratch here. You've got at least a track record. So your brand has some equity. Let's build you up organically. Let's get people in here to help. Let's make this work. We'll put you in the number 2 slot, because Beckett was stumbling around with different ownerships and all that. The opportunity is there to seize the number 2 spot comfortably.
I think we already talked about that before, that none of them did seize that opportunity.
Correct. And
But
it
even at this
still hasn't
point,
changed.
no, it seems like they're happy with their business, and if that's their business model, so be it. Which is fine. I
don't think SGC. I'll be honest with you. From everything I've seen from the president of SGC, I don't think he's happy with the business model. I honestly think they screwed up so badly the first time they tried to promote themselves that people haven't forgiven them. Right now, their turnaround time's good, and at this point in time, that should be enough with the word of mouth to get them the volumes they're looking for.
Yes.
The fact they're able to turn it around so quickly tells me they have extra capacity. So they're not even getting to the 4,000 cards a day. They're not reaching that point. HGA literally sells out within seconds to the point.
What's their numbers?
Their capacity is super low, but it doesn't matter. Like for a company that came out of nowhere that has no track record and nothing, I think they're like at 8,000 cards a week.
Well, they have somewhat of a track record being related to the comic book industry.
No. You're thinking CSG.
Too many.
Yeah.
Okay.
HGA is the one that literally came out of nowhere.
HGA came.
That's the one that literally came out of nowhere.
That we're gonna scan grade. Okay.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are hitting their capacity within 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's like they literally open it, all the slots are taken within moments.
Have you been, by the way, following the HGA grading dollar values, comparatively speaking, to any other grading companies?
I haven't, just because they haven't produced enough volume for me. It's one of those things where like you're not grading enough cards for to even be a good sample size, because you're only showing me. I can go look, but I'll only see a handful.
So, is there any big ticket cards that went and that sold?
I believe there have been a handful, but like I said, when you're checking in single digits cards in those levels, I'm like,
sure,
good, bad, or indifferent. I can't put a lot of stock in it. I need to see more. So first, I'll quickly say Tom here says hi, Bobby. So I think he's referring here. Been approached to work for a serious grader. Hockey guy here says Bobby is working on the Burrell book. He is indeed. The website. Paul says no gun show. No gun show today.
Actually, I changed my shirt because I did have it on.
There you go.
Just more relaxing and comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. It's like you don't really need some. I'm very nitpicky where I notice a lot of things because I'll pay close attention, but you don't need that. Honestly, you could. It's the old. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, the 80-20 principle. You could get so much done. If all you did, nothing more, all you had to do was just look at the absolute biggest problems, resolve those, and you could still have a bunch of little minor problems. And you would still do so much better. You'd be so much better off. And that would be enough. You just got to identify the biggest prevailing issues that are coming up the most, work on those, and then go from there.
So their biggest problem is that PSA is cut through.
Well, it depends on who you're talking about. Though. PSA's problem was that they already had a gigantic backlog. Like if you're Nat and those guys, you walked into a gigantic backlog and probably some antiquated systems. So your problem is that you're starting with, okay, so we're not built to ramp this up here, and we've already got all the business we can handle. So it's like, yeah, we can hire more people, but that's just people running around like chickens with their heads cut off. That helps, but it doesn't fix our problem. The fix is to be like, okay, where are we getting absolutely lost? And Nat in a recent interview talked about is that they were struggling to get everything inputted into the system. So that's the first little bottleneck they were getting. Yep. So they couldn't even get everything in the system. Once it gets into the system, actually, they were doing a little better job getting it to the graders and getting it graded and getting it encapsulated. So That's what you're identifying. What's the biggest problem that's preventing us from even getting this going? What's our first issue? Okay, great. Solve that. Cool. What's our second biggest issue? Then our third. Then it won't fix it overnight, but you will see progress if you start working on those real big problems first. Fix that.
Well, I think it'll be interesting seeing that on Jeremy's show on Saturday. So
yeah, the opportunity will be there to get some more information, hopefully.
Yeah.
I know he's done some interviews lately, so I'm hoping it'll be some net new stuff that hasn't already been discussed a little bit. We definitely have to recover it because obviously not everybody hears it. But there's certain things that I know he's already talked about recently. I don't want to hear the same old ground covered.
No.
I do want to hear some extra. There's an opportunity there to go further. We'll see if Nat is interested in talking about those things.
Yeah.
So good evening, Aussie Card Dad. Yep, bonus live feed. That is correct. I'll cover Paul's question here. So I was having that issue the other day, and it seemed to be an internet issue that I was having, and I noticed it on the replay. Tonight, I haven't seen any issue because there's a little indicator I get. I haven't seen any issues, Paul, so you might want to check it out. I'm not sure. It seems to be okay today. You guys let me know if any of the rest of you are encountering a similar issue, but it seems to be okay. I haven't seen the little indicator today telling me low signal or anything.
Everything seems fine.
Yeah. So there you go. So Tom says HJ is embarrassing, nay, excusable issues on their labels. Yes. Card research and making fun of other people's turnaround time when they come out and say they have to extend theirs. Yes, that is true. And that's with a lot of these new guys. SGC did this too, by the way. Here's a tip. Don't make fun of your competition unless you're doing a really, really good job. If you're doing a really, really, really good job and you're good to go and you're covered capacity-wise and everything's great, then fine. You want to take some pot shots, go ahead. But if you're not even Beckett did this. And I pointed that out in my video. In the first little bit, they go, we could have done a video bragging about our new facilities and everything. I'm like, you're literally taking pot shots at SGC at the same time that you're saying you're going to shut down part of your service levels. I'm like, I love you guys.
Yeah.
You make this so easy for me. I love you for this.
They do. They really do. I don't know what happened to them. They had so much opportunity, and they just seems to shoot themselves in the foot all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Rick's here has got a good question about the 69 Peachy hockey stamps. Let's get to that in 1 second. Let me quickly catch these other ones, and then we'll come back to that question, Rick. Just hang tight for 2 seconds. So Rick Alton came to the chat later. You said sending cards to SGC to get cards graded. I am not, but if I really needed to get something graded, at the moment, while their turnaround times are good, I wouldn't hesitate if I wanted to send a handful, but I'm not in the market to send anything right this second. I would not, unless you really need it or really want to. Then it might be a good time to get it in now before maybe their capacity suddenly shrinks, and then maybe they got a bit of a delay of this for themselves.
Well, with that little downturn in the, the grading, I think you're going to see a slow up in the grading anyhow, a little bit.
It's possible, but SGC's price point right now is far and away the best, because as soon as Beckett closes off those other ones, SGC is doing for about $25-$30, which is actually not so bad for a lot of cards.
I was actually meaning to send mine in, and I still haven't got around to it. So
I think you've still got a little window, but like I said, I want to see if SGC responds, because if SGC suddenly gets hit and they wake up in the next couple of days and suddenly they're getting slammed with 5,000 cards a day where their capacity is 4,000, all of a sudden it's like, there becomes, because you can tell immediately when something's about to go wrong there. Because if you see this volume suddenly come in out of nowhere, because it happened when PSA went away, they immediately tripled the price overnight.
I guess it's hard to gauge. They're doing 4,000 a day. I'm sure there's somewhat of a backlog, because it's hard to keep consistent 4,000, a number that large, consistent. Like some days
thing,
might be
4,000
3,
is their capacity. 4,000 is their capacity. They're not doing 4,000. The fact that they're returning it back so quick tells me they're not hitting their capacity.
They're not hitting it. Yeah.
Yeah. But my question is, if they do, if they suddenly start to hit their capacity, then they start getting in danger of a backlog, then they have to suddenly respond.
Yeah, I didn't know what their capacity, what they were hitting each day. So they're not going to tell you that anyways.
Yeah, they're not. And what's going to happen though is there are SGC fanboys out there, and what's going to happen is if they suddenly do get inundated, now that everything's starting to get pushed in their direction, they're starting to get funneled in. If that happens, and they suddenly have to triple the price again, their fans are gonna have a tough time with that one.
I don't really know. I don't think it'll be short lived anyways. Like we're talking 3 months. It's not like it's going to be a year-long thing like COMC went through, or is COMC still growing through that issue?
The amount of time I don't think is going to be the issue as much as the fact that they've become the boy who cried wolf. Every single time they declare, all right, guys, we have no backlog, we're good for business. It's like, you've said this like 3 times.
Yeah.
And you keep telling us, oh yeah, trust us. It's like every time we trust you, you do something. or you run into a problem or something happens, like every time.
Well, I understand why they put their price up, and I think that was justified.
It was 100%
smart.
justified. And at the time I said I agreed with it, but I'm saying it's going to somebody who is just looking for the cheapest option, they're going to feel like they got burned. So for them, it's going to be problematic. So thank you for the feedback there. Looks like no issues with the video from their end, so that's good. Yeah, don't tell me how good you are by making fun of the other guy. That's correct. That is an accurate statement. I agree with that. Let's quickly here. SGC is a vintage go-to. Yes. Not so sure about modern. Yeah, I think there are people who are willing, but it's like, it's not the player in modern. Yeah, they don't upcharge, which is true. Okay, so here we go.
I like SGC. I like
for what they are, they're fine.
I like the stickers.
Yeah, for what they are
on the
fine.
box. I like the stickers on the box.
The tuxedo. Here's the thing: from a marketing standpoint, I have no objection to it. I think sometimes sometimes I get feedback and people think it's like, oh, do you not like it? It's like, guys, I have SGC cards. I like their stuff fine, but I'm willing to call a spade a spade. I need to call out like, hey, I question your business acumen sometimes when you do certain things that you do. I question it because you're doing certain things that I wouldn't do in that. It speaks to me of immaturity. As a business leader, it speaks to me of immaturity, which is not good for a company that's been around that long to be that immature. You guys should be a lot smarter than that. So here's was Rick's question from a minute ago. Let's talk about this one. So he's saying, what's the story behind the 69 O-Pee-Chee hockey stamps? He's saying Greg Morris Cards is selling some on eBay, so he's curious for himself. So what about the hockey stamps?
Yeah, exactly. What do you want to know about them? I'm looking them up right now. He's got some single stamps on. Sure. Is he saying something different about them?
No, but I think the question. I think he just wants to know maybe what was the distribution method, just a little background.
Yeah, the 69 stamps were issued in both Topps and O-Pee-Chee. There's no discernible difference. Most of them were printed in two players where they would match up with a different player. Bobby Orr and Rick Cullen are double prints, but they were the only two that were matched up. So a lot of people think it's a short print, but it's not. 2 per pack. I don't know what to really say, what you're really looking for beyond that.
Were there different combinations, or were they pretty much the same combination, 2 players every time?
No, different combinations. Okay. Except Orr and Cullen, and those are the only ones that aren't with any other players.
Gotcha. And
I think they double printed him. I don't have a uncut sheet in my files, but I'll have a quick look. Take me 2 seconds.
Sure. No problem.
But it's Topps and O-Pee-Chee. Like I said, you can't tell the difference between the two, and they both issued the same year.
Okay, that's good to know. So while you do that here, I'll quickly answer a couple of these questions here. So Aussie Card Dad says here, any thoughts on what happens once all the grading companies are open for business again? I think it would be deja vu. So to a certain degree, yes, but here's what I'll push back on you. Once they're reopened for business, I don't think I'll speak for PSA. I don't believe they're going to just reopen the floodgates right away. I think they're going to go in phases. I think they're going to bring back a couple of levels. I think the lowest levels will be the last ones to come back in. What that means is they're going to keep applying pressure to the other players. What happens though, and this is just my opinion on how this plays out, I think the more pressure you put on it, the more people get irritated. What happened, I think a lot of this retraction that people are talking about, the pushback, the crash, whatever you want, is because all of a sudden, the economy of sending in these cheap cars to flip them for this big profit is gone. And what happens is as PSA gets through its backlog, millions of cards are going to appear on the market with PSA holders in them. So you're going to get these huge ton of slabs. Same with SGC, same with CSG, even HGA as they start getting their stuff out. Right now, the problem is they're coming out, but they're coming out slowly enough that, like I said, I don't see enough HGA slabs for me to make definitive value judgments. But once they start getting tens of thousands or 100,000 slabs out there, and you finally start seeing them on eBay in volume a little bit, you can start calculating this a little bit better. But it's going to take a while. But in the meantime, all these slabs are going to be on the market. And what's going to happen is what always happens. Some stuff is more common. The stuff that's really common isn't going to be worth a lot. And if you paid $20 or $30 to get it slabbed and it's worth $10 slabbed, you're losing money. Well, the more money you lose, the less likely you are to go and do this again. So it means that some of those folks that have been sending thousands of cards are going to get out of that game, or at least minimize their exposure to start putting it in. And now, once you get to that point, you're going to have all these companies reopening, and it won't be all at once. It'll be in these phases. and the amount of demand will be lower. PSA won't care. PSA will still have plenty of business to do. SGC will probably have business. Beckett may have business, but again, they'll all come rolling in their own time periods, their own timetables. And as they start to do that, what you're going to find is that it's going to settle into players. Where I think certain ones are going to have some trouble is if demand drops. What room is there for HGA? They have neat looking slabs, but I saw the point, and I think some people are starting to push back on those slabs. It's like, look, I don't care about how fancy your holder is. I care about the product in the holder. Getting a fancy holder is like, look, I don't care. Now, if you're a collector and just want a nice looking holder with a lovely label, it's like, hey, cool. I'm not paying a premium for that. If you're a seller, that's not going to help you necessarily. And if the secondary market value isn't there, why are you getting it graded in the first place? Because I don't know too much about ACA's authentication credentials. As far as I know, they don't have any. So it's like, so you're literally putting it in to put it in a fun holder with a colorful label, which is fine if that's what you want to do and that's your market. Hey man, go for it. You know, but if that's all you're bringing to the table, my interest is minimal, and I'm not going to pay a premium for that. I'll pay you the same amount I would if you put it in one touch. And if you're a seller, then that's not very appealing to you. You're not going to send stuff in. So we'll see. I think if they do open up, I think what you're going to run into is I think you're going to find that the main players who already had the capacity and are already good to go, they're just going to proceed along. The smaller players are suddenly going to find is like, oh, we're not needed anymore. Uh-oh. What are we going to do? Think there's an opportunity to invest in raw cards where there's a backlog in the industry? Well, I think everything's raw cards right now if it's not already graded. So an opportunity? Sure. Yeah. The question will be if the sellers are willing to move it for a price that's reasonable. And that's the other piece that's going to stall parts of the hobby, because some folks are already bought in too high and they don't want to accept the loss and price it at what the current market rate is because it's lower. So is it an opportunity? Sure. But how well you're able to take advantage of it is going to vary by sport, market, and item. Black border insert is sharp on undersized cards, so that's for SGC. On tobacco cards, gives them a pop. I agree. Historically, that's why I say SGC slabs look solid. That's why I think I started getting some of these black one-touches. With the right item, it looks nice. If you got something colorful, having a black border on it actually looks pretty neat. It just depends on the item. But that's why I say this is a one-touch. So I can achieve a lot of the same effect a lot cheaper with a one-touch. That's just me. I would be okay getting some of these graded, but like at the moment, there's no hurry. Most of these are collection pieces. There's no urgency. I can wait. No. I'm a very patient man when it comes to stuff like that. I can wait.
Okay. I can finish up with the 69 stamps.
Sure. If you got something I can share it. Yeah. Okay.
Just the details.
Sure.
You know, the stamps they were inserted. There was 26 in the set of stamps, so of different players. Some were in different combinations, of course. The stamps were meant to take off and stick on the back of the card. It's an extra twist in the grand scheme of having fun with cards, you know. So it was just another insert. Topichi did it only in I think it's first series, and Topps did it in their whole regular packs because they only had the one series at that time. So I don't think there's much more I can say about it. They're quite common in singles, but they're hard to find in pairs. Pairs with the extra tabs, there's a little extra tab. You know, I guess they're Cinderella stamps is really what they are, or that's what they're kind of called. If they're not real stamp values, Cinderella. So that's about it for 69 stamps.
Oh, that's cool. I think more than anything, Rick was just looking for some background because he was curious about it. Because I know he enjoys a lot of his vintage stuff, and it takes time to develop the expertise. So it's good to know.
Gotcha.
So Hockey Guy here says the hobby is in the frog and the pot phase of the amount of graded cards. Yes. That's why I say, like, there's this whole avalanche of graded cards that are sitting there, potential graded cards that are waiting to arrive on the market. That's why I say, like, there's no hurry. Patience, my friends. Patience. Patience. Well, right now, if you have the luxury and the ability to do patience, I think you will be rewarded for your patience if you can exercise it.
Well, they say it's a virtue, but most people aren't virtuous when it comes to, I pulled a card, I need to get it graded.
Yeah, and that's perfectly okay. I think it's one of those things where it's like, we'll see. Mm-hmm. But for those of us that can't exercise some patience, I think we'll be rewarded. I think we will find a reward in time. So here, Ozzy Carter guy says, I agree with your PSA thoughts. Will be interesting. I think people are stockpiling raw cards at the moment in hopes the price will be low enough to flood them again. Yep, that is true. Personally, I hope PSA goes more premium. I've made that pitch before. And I'll touch on, I know Adam here disagrees, so I'll touch on that in a second. So Rick here says, thanks, Bobby. So good stuff.
No problem.
Okay, so Adam here says, PSA will not raise prices. Want to take a bet? Also, time frame is important. Right now, this minute, probably not. In the next month or two, while there's still stuff closed, probably not. Might take forever to bring back all the service levels. That might be accurate, but why wouldn't you raise the prices? You already know the demand's there. Because
Excessively.
Yeah, and PSA is actually demonstrating how powerful they are with how they were able to impact everybody else simply by withholding their services. And people are still sending in stuff at that high end. And I promise you, at the National, where they're doing on-site grading, they will have demand. And it just reinforces to PSA. Now, here's a caveat, important caveat I want to make. I don't think PSA is going to abandon the set registry. It's too much of a cash cow. I think what you have to do, if you're PSA and you're smart, is I think you have to sit back and go, okay, we want to keep the set registry. We know that's a cash cow. What about this bulk service? What can we do? Well, one thing you can do, which they've already done a little bit, but you could emphasize it more, is you could jack up the price on Ultra Modern. Look, if you want to send your Prism stuff from the last couple of years, all right, we are going to jack up the price on you. So if you want the bulk service, it's got to fall under this criteria. And if it's like set registry stuff that's from like 10 years ago or 15 or 20 years ago, sure. Yeah, you can have it for $20 a card or whatever. But if it's stuff from this year or last year or whatever, ultra modern, nope. $50 a card.
And
go ahead.
What about the rumors of them not doing any qualifiers?
Well, that one, I think they've said already that they are gonna move away from that. So
that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah. So I think they just haven't made all their plans fully fleshed out. But I think they've said that you no longer have to specify if you want qualifiers or not. So I think they're going to phase them out.
But Mark and Stain will probably stay.
Yeah, there are certain ones that make sense. But there are certain ones that are like, it's not really that useful. Just roll it into the technical grade. Just roll it into technical grade. Because it makes sense.
Should be, because it's really broken down into 4 grades. Corners, edge, surface, and centering. So.
Yeah, something like OC probably is redundant. You don't really need that. So it's like, there are ways, there are opportunities. So
it left too much open, though.
Oh, for sure.
You know, what's OC? This doesn't look so OC. It's
but that's why I say, like, the easiest way is just roll into technical grade, because you've got criteria for each level, and you say if it's this off center, it can be no higher than this grade.
Let them determine that. Yeah,
correct. And it makes it easier. All you got to do is basically pull out a ruler and figure it out, and then half the work's done. So PMN here says, and good evening, PMN, by the way. How long before SGC raises its prices again? Could be very soon. I speculate on that in that latest video. With the CSG backlog, yes. Beckett and PSA suspended. And SGC sale set in minutes. They're the last one standing at this time. You are correct. That is the theme of the day. So I do touch on it on that video. My suspicion. Now, we'll see, because SGC has managed to avoid this because, like I said, for their demand hasn't hit.
No.
Now that they've got their new hires, they haven't hit critical mass yet. If they do, then I think the moment they start seeing the possibility of backlog, crank it up again. They already showed a hair trigger.
It's only fair. It's only fair that they do that, and they're protecting their business.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't blame them for it. It's just like I said, there are some folks who will get immediately upset again because that's what they do every single time somebody raises their prices.
Everybody gets upset over nothing.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, absolutely.
Just a card.
We shall see, we shall see, guys. We shall see. Sounds good. So I'm just quickly scanning here.
Oh, yeah.
Close a couple of these tabs here now. So as far as that's concerned, that's kind of where we stand on that. Those of you who have joined us in the last little bit, are you going to be popping into the National yourselves now that that's a thing and that's pretty much officially on?
Yep.
Any interest in that? Kind of gauge it a little bit.
We can't go.
Okay, so you have Adam and no way they alienate PSA customer base more by raising prices. Why not? Wishful thinking by the crowd that wants it to be elite cards only. We'll see. Like I said, I don't have the same confidence you do. I think PSA is very aware of where it stands. You say alienates customer base, it's like, do you care? If you can't afford it, don't buy it, peasant. Go send it to one of the other ones. I hear GMA is taking grading.
Yeah.
GMA is available. Go for it.
They're going to up their price too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So here we go. Personal finance dad Dustin is here. Awesome. So good evening, Dustin. Headed national. I am not. In Canada, it is too much of a pain. I am leaving that. I'm leaving that to Jeremy. Right now, so I'll tell you guys, those of you stateside who are not aware, you could technically, because I know Dave was asking earlier and Steve were asking just in the text thread, they were saying like, what's the situation? I go, technically you could, if you really wanted to. If you were vaccinated and whatever, you could. But there's still, at the moment, there is still a 14-day quarantine on return. So you could hop on a plane if you were desperate enough that you really wanted to and wanted to deal with it. You're expected to then be in like very similar to what Australia does. Not as stringent, obviously, but very similar where like, no, you're going to a hotel. You're not just going back home. You're going to be like, okay, get off the plane. Then you do a test and basically have to be retested, I think once or twice within that period to make sure. And then if all that's good and you've passed the time period, and by the way, that hotel stay, you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So if you do all that, then you may re-enter the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To be honest, also given the recent, even if you snap your fingers and we open the borders tomorrow, which we're in no position to do here at all, but even if you did, given the way that the last couple of card shows have gone, I would not run to the national myself. I don't need to have no space around me to maneuver around because most likely it'll be pretty crazy. Especially if Illinois said that they're going to let them do it without restriction. Mm-hmm. So masks may not be required. It most likely will be pretty open. We'll see how much they do with that, but that'd be a pretty full house, I think, if that's the case. So we'll see. We shall see. Quickly get caught up here. So PMN says, I sent 4 pretty big vintage cards. Wanted to add 1 or 2 more, but I'm fearful of a quick price change. Well, I think one thing I'll say to you, PMN, is that, and the fear is rational, like it's perfectly rational. I will say though that they didn't like snap their fingers and make it effective immediately. I think they did give you a little bit of a window.
And
so if you are looking to add
right?
1 or 2, as long as you send it in short order, if that's what you want to do, if you send it in short order, I think you're still okay.
Don't they have a postmark requirement?
Yeah, most of the time when they do, even this example, even when Beckett's closing it, they said by June 7th.
Yeah.
Well, today's June the 1st. So if you really want to send in something to Beckett, you can do it right now. If you send it in right this moment, you've got a couple of days, but you got to get it out. You got to get it sent that way. If that is your desire, you're going to be waiting a while because they're trying to get caught up, but you have a window. At the moment, SGC hasn't announced anything because obviously I don't think anything has changed for them, but I'm sure some folks are starting to prepare their SGC orders as we speak. They're like, get it sent.
Maybe.
Yeah. So out of here, GMA garbage. Yes, we know. That's the reason why I brought it up. Yeah, no worries.
It's just sad.
Yeah. They have a family in England, Italy. It's the same story. 10-day quarantine. Yep. Yeah. It's the amount of time. Like even again, that costs money. And like you'd have to have a working situation where it's like, I'm sorry, I can't. Again, even if everything was perfect, I can't afford to sit there in a hotel room with quarantine for a couple of weeks. It's like, no, my employer would expect me to go back to work. They expect me to do some work. Or even, obviously we're doing telecommunication, but how good is the Wi-Fi in the hotel room? Because it depends on how stringent they want to be, right? So it'd be a little bit more difficult to get your work done. And I'll be honest, the inconvenience just to cross the border and do that is like, no. For a card show, I'm good. I'll watch from afar.
Yeah, the National doesn't really have much in the way of hockey, unfortunately.
If I went to the National, I wouldn't be looking for hockey.
It's social.
If I went to the National, it'd be social, but I'd also be looking for vintage baseball.
Yeah.
Vintage baseball, I'm very confident there's plenty. That would be the category that I would be looking at if I went to the National as a card buyer. So, and I think I do all right in that regard, but it's not worth the effort, especially right now with the amount of extra work I'd have to do for that. No.
I think Ozzy Card Dad is very correct about what we're going to see. We're going to see the lack of vintage and total upswing on newer cards.
Oh no, for sure.
The modern.
For sure. But what happens is because
dealers, I'm saying.
Yes, but I'm saying the dealers that specialize in vintage, I think they'll do fine. I don't think they'll have any issue because a bunch of the crowd is there for hanging out, and the ones that like vintage are still going to buy. So it's like the dealer that has it in there, the modern will do it, but this is important. If the downturn, what if you go to the National and people aren't willing to spend the cash? They're looking to do a lot more of those trade deals like Dallas. Well, guess what? The vintage guys don't care. They're still doing their thing.
We don't trade in vintage. Like
But that's what I'm trying. This is what I'm trying to get at.
We do a bit,
but what happens if the vintage guys are still doing their deals in cash like normal, and the other guys have to do that trade stuff and whatever, which is okay. That's your business. So the vintage guys going to care? They're like, no, man, my show was fine. It went well.
There's been a slight movement with trading, and I think that'll get into the vintage a little bit more. Where I'll give you this and this, and I want something like that. I think a lot more of that'll take place. That doesn't help the dealers. All the trading that's going on beyond that, you're paying for your booth, and you got all these other people walking around with their, Pelican briefcases with their whatever in there, and they're trying to make trades off the floor, which is fine. But I think it'll be busy enough to compensate for that difference.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's it's going to be interesting. Let's put it that way. If nothing else, I think we can all agree that it's going to be interesting.
There'll be 50 million videos, and we'll never have enough time to catch up on all of them. I
can only hope. I enjoy it. Please take the videos. Dustin, you can hear me. Take all the videos. All the videos. Go for it.
We'll watch.
I encourage. You will have a viewer in me. I assure you. So anyway, here. So sorry, it wasn't clear. Send it to SGC. No, I understood what you were saying. I still believe that they will give you a little bit of a window because SGC knows that every time they raise the price, they alienate some people. They do. So they understand that it's like, well, you can't just snap your fingers and cut it off right this second. It's like you gave me no notice. The window will probably be small, to your point in the second there. Didn't CSG give us a window and they got signed? Yes, they did. They're almost 200 days on the bulk now. Almost 199, which is what they've put on the site. That's what they're admitting to. Which means it's probably shot over 200 days. So yes, that window always kills you. And Beckett has a backlog, but they've given you almost a week. So it's like, they're probably going to get slammed. And then it'll shift from there. So yeah, Autograph Vault says Sasha T will cover for us Canadians. Correct.
Yeah.
And I approve of this.
Well, I think our fall show is looking really good at this point. It keeps getting better. The odds keep getting better opposed to less.
I believe that. So I know PMN has a reply here. I'll get that in a second. So as Card Dad says here, I was there to buy and trade 90s basketball. Oh, 90s basketball. You'll have fun if you want to try that one. When I could find dealers were using comps from before the market dip. Was frustrating. No, that's fair. Yeah. I get you. I agree with that. So here we go. Dustin says, with vlog novices, the Blair Witch Project of Hobby Log. Hey, listen, there's room for Blair Witch Project. There is some room for Blair Witch Project.
There is, and I can't watch that show. It was all over the place. It was just... made you spin.
That's right. Yeah. No, you're 100% right, P-Man. But again, you got to learn from your mistakes, right? They got flack for that. I understood why they did it. Bobby understands why they did it. Like, it made sense. Like, we understood. But they got really, really hurt. It wasn't a good experience for folks, is all I'm trying to get at. That's all I'm trying to say is that people didn't enjoy that. They were not happy campers. So it's like, be careful with that one. Again, if they end up doing it that way, totally with you. But I think what we're all saying though is that it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. I don't know how close you are to sending out your item. If you get it sent out, maybe you're okay. But the window will close, obviously. To your point. Either way, even if it's a tiny window, it'll close. So we do understand. Yep, we are in the era of better cameras. Even your iPhone camera is probably a much better camera than it would have been even a couple of years ago. The technology is phenomenal. This thing can do 4K video.
Oh yeah,
you're fine. There's a lot. The technology is real good. But I think it's going to be hilarious, the amount of people with camera crews and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be very funny. So 4x4 Rubicon, good evening.
Well, I bought some vintage hockey cards today.
Oh, did you? Sounds good.
Yeah, some really nice 33 Hamilton chewing gum. The weird numbered system set. But I got a couple nice ones, so I'll show them on Friday.
Okay. All right, so you save it for Friday. That's fair. I think that'll be something to look forward to. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So what we'll do here, guys, is, like I said, we'll hang out here for a bit more, talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. And Dustin, no pressure, but since you're around, if you want to pop on for a couple of minutes, I got a couple of questions related to the Dallas show that I'd love to ask you. I did watch some of your stuff. Again, if you're off in another room or something busy, no pressure. But if you have a second, I do have the link there connected to the chat. I would be happy to have you come on for the first time and ask you a couple of questions related to Dallas since you were there. Since you guys were doing the vlog inception, I enjoyed the amount of, This vlog shows this person taking this footage over in the corner, and then this person shows it from the other angle, and then you can see, you could literally stitch together. Somebody had the time.
The whole show you could stitch
together. They could
together.
stitch together the whole show and see every angle of the same conversation.
Yes.
If you sync up the audio, you will get the director's cut of the transaction, which would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be really
very
good.
entertaining.
Because I saw so many videos. I just kept putting it on and listening and then they kind of repeat after a little while.
It's fun. It's still fun for me. Like I said, if it was too much, I wouldn't watch it. But it was fun for me for what it was, because I'm not worrying about the individual transactions, what we talked about before. I'm looking at it. I'm just curious of how people were doing their business. It's kind of like what Aussie Card Dad was saying. Like, I'm curious. The specifics don't matter to me. A lot of the stuff you're going to see. You're going to see it. Yeah. No worries. Like I said, no pressure on that one. I get you. But yeah, at some point, we'll get together and we'll figure something out. No problem with that.
Yeah, I was listening to the way people were dealing. It's a very different, this modern, the younger crowd. They do things differently than traditionally what we do at the expo or any other place like that. I found that they're honest and somewhat sincere.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sincerity, kind of like, hey, yeah, good to see you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. It's just like it's a monotone. It's a lot of that there. And they're appreciative. It's just and the deals they're doing, I can only do this and I'll offer you this and the cost comp was this, and so I just said, okay, yeah, just do the deal. Let's get it done. People have such a hard time doing deals. And,
but remember what I said the other day. With all these cameras on, nobody wants to. You're going to have so many backseat drivers. We're going to be like, oh my God, man, you got ripped off on this. And it's like, oh, but look at how much this has gone for. And this has gone up since then. And this is, I'm like,
yeah,
let them make their damn deal. All right. It made sense to them at the time.
You said you were doing that for your PC and then you turn around and sell it to the other guy. There's no hiding here.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, it forces transparency on folks, whether they like it. You've created this world where you've forced transparency on people. Mm-hmm. Now you can be seen. Like I made the joke about stitching together. Like you could see the same deal from a 360-degree view. Yeah. If you stitch together the right way, you could, and you could sync it up and get the mouth is moving at the right time for the whole conversation. You could just switch camera angles and show this thing from 360 degrees, and it'd be like, how did you manage to? It's like, it can be done.
It's awesome. That'd be great.
It can be done. And
it can be done with. If you had enough time in your life to stitch it all together and get everybody straight
any
together.
Editor worth their salt these days with the technology available to us could do it in a couple hours, because it's like you just have to have the footage. As long as you got the footage, you can do it.
There's 100 people videotaping for sure.
Yeah, so it's like you got plenty to use. You can stitch together however you want, and it would work just fine.
Imagine at the National, it'll just be everybody will be, because so many people do have vlogs and what have you, and they want to just be with their friends and doing. You're going to cover everything. So you don't even have to go to the show. You can kind of see what's going on there.
Well, as I said, like I'll touch on one aspect of that because it kind of plays into my thought process with the expo as well a little bit, and we'll touch on that. So Aussie Card Dad here is like, no apologies, Aussie Card Dad. Enjoy. It's all good. The amount of people using phone cameras and cutting off, I think that's going to be an issue for some folks, because there's some folks who's like, no, I'd like to do a deal in peace. I actually don't want you to film this deal that I'm trying to do with you. I just want to have a conversation. I just want to talk about whatever, look at whatever I'm looking at without a camera in my face.
And people are doing it for content, so.
No, but I mean, like, what about the other people that are... So imagine you're the dealer and you're doing that content. What if I go in and I want to do a deal? It's like, I don't want a camera in my face.
No.
Personally, now, do I care personally? Not so much. But I'm saying, like, if I'm somebody who did, though, I'm like, well, hey, are you gonna blur out? You're gonna blur it out? It's like, hey, I don't want to be doing a big cash deal with my face on there. And it's like, no, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So like, it hasn't come up yet, as far as we know. I would be shocked if it did at some point.
True.
Because it could be a liability issue. Because don't forget, like that happens on YouTube. People will take footage of stuff and have to blur out people's faces because did you get consent for that?
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you have to blur them out and like do whatever you need to do. Just be aware of that. The other aspect of it, and what I was saying, is that with a lot of these shows, like even the expo, I laughed because the reason I know a lot of people get excited about the expo, and so do I enjoy it, but it really is for the hangout portion of it, because like, look, most of the stuff I want isn't there. I'll buy some stuff here and there, but it's 99% of the stuff I get, I end up finding on eBay or on Instagram or whatever anyway, because some of it's really rare and niche. And if it's that niche, it's like the odds of me finding in a dealer table are real low. If I was collecting some of the hotter players, then probably they'd bring it to the showcase. But there's a good likelihood. It's like, the rare stuff is like, oh, it's on my eBay store.
Or it's under the table.
Or it's on my eBay store. Like for a lot of them, it's like, oh, it's actually in my inventory. If it's a shop or something, I've got it in my inventory in Kamloops or in Vancouver or whatever. And it's like, well, great. What am I going to do with that?
So here's an interesting question. If the borders open up and we have the show in November, I wonder how many people will come up to Canada from the U.S. to...
if we open the borders?
Yeah.
99% of the ones that would have anyway.
I understand that. I'm just wondering the excess. How many more do you think it would... would it... in a percentage?
Comparatively to like quote-unquote normal?
Yeah.
70, 80% more?
You think so? That high?
Yeah, I think it would be.
I thought it'd be 50%, but
it'll depend on where we're at in November. So again, let's pretend. Let's pretend you open it up. Yeah, that's what I say. Let's pretend you open it up by November. Okay, and let's pretend your dip finishes and you get it, and you get an uptick and some stuff's moving again. Then that means the expo will suddenly have more basketball.
Yes.
And then, boom. It's like, what is that? Oh, that's Sastrachi's Caravan. Did you see that rolling across the border? Road trip.
That's it for sure. Let's go.
The caravan rolls into town, guys. This caravan rolls into town.
We're going for poutine and basketball. Let's go.
Exactly. So quickly, I'll get caught up here, guys. So Dave says he's going to wear his GoPro and his fanny pack. Go for it, Dave. Make it happen.
I'm thinking about buying a fanny pack again.
Love it.
I don't want to call it fanny pack. I think people keep it over their shoulder now. What do they call it? Anybody out there?
Well, I still think it's a fanny pack. So Rick here says, have his cameraman produce a security guard, as you should. You should bring a drone. Do it. Paul says, ultimate fanny pack flex, Dave. Correct.
Ultimate.
Yep. Autograph Vault says, market and sell. No filming size the table and sell them in the parking lot of the National. You could. Like, I'm sure there'll be tons of side deals. Tons of side deals, no doubt. What happened to the fat guy selling cars eating hamburger and not paying attention to you? I know. The good old days, right? What the heck? So Josh here says, sorry if I missed it. Bobby, do you set up for the virtual expo and have you found the first couple? Oh, Bobby, please. Wait, actually, before you tell us about the virtual expo and your love for it, your undying love for it, that's a spoiler, guys, in case you want to know. So quickly, I'll get Dave's comment here. I'll be there in November, 100% guaranteed. So yeah, if it's open, I think it'll happen. So you go, European man purse, Bobby. Are you in the market for it?
Is it called a European man purse?
Well, I think I'm pretty sure if it's not a fanny pack, you're out of options very quickly, Bobby.
Can't we say on fleek or something?
Oh,
cool?
Listen. If you're hip with the kids like you are, Bobby, you can say on fleek. Why not?
No.
All right, tell them your undying love for Virtual Expo, please.
Fanny on fleek.
I'll be right back in one sec, guys.
My love for the Virtual Expo. This time, I will not be setting up for it. The last few times, I don't think it's good for a person like me who really isn't so much of a dealer. I'm more of a collector / information person. So, I was selling my books, or I would be selling a few extra things, the oddball stuff, the knickknacks, or whatever you guys want to call it. So I found it more of a social event for me. For other dealers who are dealing in cards, it's a great way for them to do stuff, but it doesn't work for me. However, if I was to have my book out, obviously I would have no problem with setting up there, and then I could run people through a video of the online or the app, which I plan on doing at the next show, at the next expo in the fall. So until that time, I won't be doing this expo. I did the other two previous ones, but I won't be doing this one. It just was a lot of time for me to sit around and everybody's talking. It's just like right now, hey, Bobby, what are you doing? What's happening? Yeah, what are you doing? And I had all my stuff listed and I had a running video and I just didn't make really any sales. So it just became more of a social aspect of a show for me, which is usually at the regular show. That's it. Everybody comes up and wants to talk and they want to ask questions, and I have no problem with that. But I'm not your typical dealer. So
I was going to say we had the discussion after the last one, is that I thought one of the challenges, again, it's not the only thing, but one of the challenges is that the type of product makes it very niche. And also, does the demographic that's interested in it translate? Because the thing with the virtual, any of you guys who haven't seen it, and you can check it out. We'll have the next one coming up in a couple of weeks here in June. Virtual Expo is easy because anybody can attend. And registration is quote unquote free. So it's not a big deal. It's fine. But what you run into is it's effectively not that dissimilar to what you're looking at right now. You've got a live video feed. You've got a chat. You can be hanging out and talking. You basically, last Virtual Expo, Dave was there, I was there, and a couple of things, and we would hang out at a booth. And effectively, you were getting a free podcast, not unlike what you're getting a lot of times like this.
True.
At a dealer booth, but then the dealer would also be able to make deals at the same time. And sometimes the dealer was happy about it because they'd be doing their deals at the same time, and people would be entertained and just kind of hanging out. Not everybody would buy, but as you start bringing more and more people in, other people could see how many people were viewing a certain booth.
Yes.
So they'd click on it and going, oh, what's going on here? Well, all that was going on is people were watching and listening to kind of the back and forth bantering. And in the course of that, some people would then check out the merchandise and buy stuff. But it depends on what you got. It depends on what it is. Because how good you are if you were good at this genre, you'd probably be a good dealer at the show if you've got decent stuff because you can probably sell it. It's easy to sell if you've got, for a lot of folks, but a lot of folks like the tire kick. One change they made, which I understood, but at the same time, it's kind of weird, is that now when you go into a booth, people can see your name when you show up. I understood why they did it that way, but at the same time, it's like, what about people that just want to look? Well, people that want to pop in, look a little bit, maybe click on the link to see some of the stuff, and if they want something, then they engage. It's not everybody is into the social aspect of the same, because as a person joining, you could actually go in there. You could 100% make that happen. So it's like, if you wanted to, you could pop on. The same way that when I put the link here, if one of you clicks on that and I add you in, you can be here, you can be on here if you want to. You have that option if you wish. You don't have to do that. You can just hang out in the chat or do a private window or whatever. That works too. But that's the way this works. If you're good at that, then you'll probably do okay. If you're not good at that, then you're going to be sitting there. A lot of folks just put a camera on there and like they were never at the booth. It's like, well, how you expecting to do any business?
And then we go, hi, how can I help you? It's like,
correct, exactly. And like, well, how you expecting to do any business that way?
I have a running video, all descriptions, pictures, and everything. I had it all set up perfect, and nada.
Yeah.
I made a couple contacts, but I mean, other than that, it wasn't really anything. And yes, Dave, I like the shoulder satchel.
That's an option. That could be an option.
I like that. I haven't worn one since the 80s. Like when they came out, I used to, because I rode my motorcycle, so I would put everything in there, your wallet and everything. And, it was a great thing to have. But I didn't really want to get back into it. But by default, I'm getting back into mullets. So COVID
all that's old is new again. All that's old
is
is new again. So I'll get caught up here in the chat. Hazard said, I laughed Jeff Wilson's posse when he was at the Dallas, but it would have been nice to see him go without the entourage. Yeah, but he's trying to get content, so he was never not going to have a posse. Yep, makes sense. Purse, it's European, correct? Yep. And
why does it have to be European? They had man purses, I get it, back in the 60s, but
I don't think even the shoulder satchel is a North American thing. I think that's still kind of European.
Well,
I think it's where it got.
European,
I think where you get. I think what you're doing is you're giving it where it's popularized.
We are Canadian.
Yeah, but we do have. Yeah, there is that. We are the Dominion of Canada.
We are
to this day. Dave saying his undying love for Sports Card Investor. You guys can all read it. It says very clearly that he loves Jeff Wilson. He subscribes to everything he has. He's got a shirt, a hat. He may have a Sports Card Investor tattoo that says hello. Maybe.
Or sell.
Could be.
The top 5 cards you should buy.
There you go. It's a full arm sleeve. You guys can see it in a future episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know most of the booths just had linked to the eBay store, which I found useless. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, if you're doing that, you're not providing any additional value, because then really, like, yeah, I'm on eBay regularly. If it's something that I want on eBay, I've probably seen it. There's a good chance. Like, I check regularly, so it's like you're not bringing anything special to the table, because then I probably would just buy it or make an offer on eBay.
Yeah, it's just keeping it relevant. More than anything else, I think it's, and there's possibility that other people can log in and do a deal.
But there's also, if you don't do the eBay store, you realize that for those guys, it's like, the eBay store costs you an additional fee. If you can make a deal at the virtual expo, you can then negotiate a rate that actually makes you more money, but maybe brings the price down from eBay, but you still net more money.
Yeah, and you
It's
can't
like,
cancel that thing because they'll back charge you for it.
correct, exactly. But you can at least do a direct deal. So it means as a
Sure.
buyer, you can negotiate potentially a better rate, and as a seller, you would actually get more out of the deal. So it's kind of a win-win potentially.
Yeah, because you can save, obviously the 15 to almost 20% now. And now in Canada, with the in and out of American money exchange twice, you're at 20%. So
Correct.
it said it was supposed to be or likely to be cheaper, and I went likely not.
But that's what I mean. Like you can, with that, one thing it opens up for you is you can negotiate what the dollar amount is. You can negotiate which currency it's in. You can negotiate how you want to transfer them. All these things allow you to figure out whatever's the most advantageous. You can come up with some dealers will work with you on that. They'll be like, okay, look, as long as I get my money and it's a way that I can get it what I'm looking for. Because the Canadian dealers that I dealt with, some of them, sometimes it was PayPal. That made the most sense. Some of them are like, oh yeah, if you want to do Interact direct payment, that's easier for me. It's no fee for you. It's like it goes directly into my account. We're inside the same banking system. It's fine. And then I know instantly if the deal went through, like we're solid.
But then again, isn't it like very much like the vlogs we're seeing in Dallas? Like it's everyone's filming it. It's like you're right there and you're making your negotiations right there in front of people. It's almost basically the same, right?
It is. But the thing is, like, at the time, you couldn't record it. Because that's what I joke with Dave. I go, a lot of the conversation we had there would have made amazing content that I would happily have snipped and been like, let me just put this on my channel because it's recorded for, if I could have this for posterity, this would be fantastic. But
yes,
it is what it is. So here we go. Jays went up 5-1. Appreciate the update. Good stuff. All right, guys. So quick thing, what we're going to do. I promised that I wasn't going to make the stream too long, and we can still hear us here in chat for a couple more minutes. I have no qualms about that. If anyone wants to use the link, this is your last call before I drop it. I will pull the link off, and then we'll chat for a couple more minutes, and then we'll wind her down. I mostly wanted to talk about the grading thing, make sure we did that. We'll have more to talk about on Friday anyway, so that's going to be a for sure thing. But I wanted to have a little bit of a breakdown and have a little bit of the opportunity to chat on another day since, like I said, Dave and Steve are going to come back, and I know Dave's got a comment here. So, yep, we carried the room with our brilliance, not allegedly. True. If the people that were hanging out got an opportunity to really get a good debate, because we did kind of what happens on the podcast. We got to chat about a bunch of topics. It was just sitting there shooting the breeze. And like I said, it's disappointing that it's like, actually, there's some really good stuff. There were some good conversations. Other people chimed in, joined in, and it was like a panel discussion. And the people who got to watch it, but then it wasn't available anywhere else to pull out. I would love to have extracted some nuggets out of that and used it again somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So I'll give it another 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll cut off the link, and then we'll wind her down. And if there's anything else you guys want to chat about, the shows or the national or anything else, we can definitely do that. And then we'll call it an evening.
Or any vintage oddball questions.
Yeah, that's right up Bobby's line of work there. So if you guys want to go that route, you have that option.
Challenge me, please.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing. Those of you who are hanging out, and I've been watching you through the evening, I appreciate you checking out and watching. One more thing. If you are on your way out and you're done for the evening, appreciate you hanging out. But if you could hit the like button on your way out, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Would appreciate that.
And subscribe.
If you could, that would be lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It was almost like a round table worth watching. Yeah. No, we joke about it because obviously we're harsh critics of content. We're very harsh critics of content, but a round table's hard to do well. You want to bring in people, you want to bring in some divergent opinions, but you also need folks that can explain it in a way that engages conversation. It's not easy. It's not like, oh yeah, just put a bunch of people in a virtual room and let them talk. It's like, well, not exactly. That's not what that is. Because otherwise, then the best conversations ever, if that was the only criteria, would be on Clubhouse. And I've listened to some of the stuff on Clubhouse, and some of it's fine, and some of it's not so great. A lot of it depends on how it's moderated. It really is. Like it depends on how it's moderated. And if it's not moderated, oh my God, it can come off really terrible. So a round table can be fantastic with some great opinions and some good back and forth and some nice conversation you can think through some topics, or it can be people just talking, trying to get in the last word, and it's a disaster. I've heard both. Mm-hmm. And it depends on how it's monitored. So people are going to have to relearn how to collect without grading everything. Yep. somehow many collectors lost their way. Yeah. Anytime money's involved, there's always going to be an aspect of that because greed is good. Gordon
Yes.
Gekko was right.
Those wayward sons. I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say. That was quick.
Yeah, no worries. Autograph Vault here says 60s Montreal Canadiens postcards. Best way to tell the stamped or authentic signed ones apart.
You look at it in the light. There's a reflection on the autograph where it's signed and where the reflection of the card is. You can see there's a reflection on the autograph too. Otherwise, it'll all be one kind of shine. You won't see it. There'll be disparity when it is a real autograph. If it's a facsimile autograph, it'll all blend in one together.
Yeah. One other thing, and this is not like autograph authentication is not my area of expertise, but there is one thing that logically that I have heard that makes a lot of sense to me. If you think about somebody writing a signature, and by the way, you can always cheat and like do your own experiments. That's not a bad idea so that you can visually identify what something looks like. If you think about somebody writing, we all have different writing pressures. Like when we're writing something out, maybe during certain letters, we put a little additional pressure down, depending on the type of pen or whatever it is. A stamp will tend to be uniform. That's a bit of a telltale sign. It's like, because usually a stamp, you're not going like angling it. You could, but most of the time you're pressing it down pretty evenly. So the way it gets pushed down, if it looks super even with almost no variation, that should make you think something.
Especially if you had two to compare.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, but just having that visual and having your own practical understanding can actually help you as a collector being like, oh, okay, I understand a little bit better. And if you can get samples of real good examples of this and one versus the other, you can become more familiar. And then it makes you better as a hobbyist. You become a better identifier yourself.
Yeah, and the 60s Canadian postcards, I'm sure you're talking about the black and white ones for the most part. There's a site out there, Montreal Canadiens, I forget, his name is Earl Schneidman, and he runs Montreal Canadian site, and he has all of those 1960s postcards divided out perfectly, really well done, and everything else Montreal Canadiens. So Earl's really a sharp guy, and you can check out that website. I think you have to pay a lifetime membership is like $10 or something. So
that seems reasonable for the if the information is available. I think that's all right.
And it's all about the Canadians, yeah. And the postcards for Montreal is very difficult to divide them out and see which ones you really have, because sometimes you might have a really rare one that you don't think it's rare, and you might sell it for the wrong price. Because some of them go for $80 to $100, where most of them are $10 to $15. So you could be, you have to watch what you're selling with those ones.
Okay, sounds good. So here Josh says, Stephen LaRoche was on another podcast talking about the 37 release that got changed to a 38 release.
Yeah, he's the one who, Stephen was the one who figured that out about 10, 12 years ago or longer. Just by reading the back of one of the cards.
Which series was it, by the way?
Second series.
Yeah,
no,
second series of what though? I've got the year, but what series is it?
Of the.
So he's talking about a 37 release. What brand? What issuer?
Oh, what brand? That was the Worldwide Gum.
No, that was what I was asking. Yeah, because
they did it two different, 1933 and 1937, 38.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So
it was the second series, and on the back of one of the cards there was mention that they refereed in 38, or it was 36, 37. I think they changed it 37, 38, and by him reading that, it's like, well, that can't work out. And the information was already there for how many decades? Mm-hmm. And all you have to do is sometimes just read the cards. And most people never do, and we take it for granted. So he did change that, which was really interesting. And what podcast was that on, or where was that? Because I know he was supposed to be on Jeremy's show, and he had a bad connection. So what other one was he on?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. It's a fair question, but hopefully that helps a little bit, Josh. Yeah. So Ozzy Cardad says, do some homework for the next live to shoot some vintage questions. That is fair.
Sure. Hockey, please.
Yeah. Why are there so many hockey players named Lemieux? It's like the Quebecois version of Smith.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll touch on the next two quickly here. So Amy Bach wishing O.J. Simpson dead for money. We already talked about AJ Simpson last stream. We'll see about that. Does Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn have a rookie? Probably. Center Ice hockey card cast. Okay, yeah. That sounds. It might have been a recent one.
It would have to be, yeah.
Yeah, and Aussie Card Dad says everyone has a rookie. That is correct. That is an accurate statement. That is true. Yeah, I think anybody who's in pop culture at this point would have been in something, because I know Leaf. I can tell you, Leaf produces a lot of stuff that has popular culture people, actors, actresses, models, Instagram models, Twitch streamers, whatever they can find. Anything that Brian Gray can find that somebody can sign that can be put in there. Well, going forward now, they'll have a pro set card before you know it.
Yeah, in the last 8 months, we've found rookies for everyone. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Not us, but we as
the collective we, the royal we,
the we of all.
There you go. Exact. It's all right, Amy. Just hang in there. Soon, very soon, everyone gets a rookie card. Oh, Peachy with a really bad corner. Well, depending how badly the corner is, you can knock that all the way down to a poor, depending on how bad the corner is.
And that's not worth much of anything.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it depends. That's why I said the first question was grade the card. It's like depending how bad the corner is. Just released today. Eric and Aaron had their 1 year anniversary. Okay, so it was today's live stream. Yeah, okay. That's cool. That's true. Yeah, Jenner, because Jenner, when they were in the Olympics, the sportscaster card. That makes sense.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, multi-sports aren't allowed to be rookie cards, so.
Well, I think, though, given the nature of the sport, I don't think they'd really have a rookie card anyway. So I don't think there'd be a Bruce Jenner rookie card anyway, otherwise.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, so it'd be the closest thing.
What are we going to call that? I don't even know what to call that. Where's Victor? Where the hell's Victor?
At that point, get Victor on that case.
Victor! Yeah, because if they don't have, if it's in a multi-sport, yeah.
It doesn't leave you a lot of options, because it's not like they're going to produce. It's not like they're going to produce a bunch of sets about track and field athletes. It's not going to happen.
But what if they did 2 or 3? Which one is their true rookie card?
For sure. Yeah.
That's where it gets up. Yeah, table tennis and badminton and all those other sports. Just it's hard to have a rookie card for any of those.
Yeah.
Well, there was that other issue. The Olympic sports Topps put out in 1982, 83, Muhammad Ali. There's a bunch of other ones in there, but those might be interesting. But that was a multi-sport set again. But there's a lot of offshooted. I'd say, I don't know, the Olympic cards compared to, are they considered?
Well, that's the problem, is that it's kind of the conversation that at some point I'll have with Victor. It's that, remember, I always make the contrarian thing that I'm like, I don't really care what a rookie card is. To me, a rookie card isn't that relevant. It's not that important to me. I understand why it's important to a lot of people, but then you run into this problem of like, okay, define it. What do you do if you define it in a sport or something that doesn't have a traditional like annual series? What do you do when you've got all these?
Then it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah,
and it's not that significant that who cares if it's
yeah. And at a certain point, it's like, well, pick one. And The Rock is a good example of that. It's like, look, he's got the Bumblebee card where he's playing football, but that's not where he became famous. But you argue, okay, so do you do the wrestling card? Well, you could, but then at the same time, he's most famous now as a movie star. So if they have like a movie card of him, then as a Scorpion King, that was like his first major motion picture. So would that be the best one? Or would it be the football thing? Or would it be the wrestling thing? Because he's known for 2 out of those 3 predominantly, but he does have a card in the other thing.
Yeah. So he has many rookies.
Theoretically, yeah. Because these are different genres. College football is one thing. Professional wrestling is another thing entirely. It's an entertainment genre. But then acting and being all these roles is a third thing entirely.
And it has to be broken down that way. As somebody else was trying to document other cards. Remember the baseball cards that we gave the example of before? We had, who do we have? One-Eyed Frank McGee, and we had these other ones from 1923. They remember the Selkirk thing that I was talking about, and I said they were baseball cards, but they're the players, but they were in baseball, so that's really their baseball rookie. But it doesn't come over and cross over into hockey. It can't be their rookie card, even if it was a year prior when they played baseball. They come to hockey, it's the hockey rookie. So the baseball is irrelevant. But if you want to call that as baseball rookie, that's fine. But it's another sport, so it has to be separated.
Yep. So quickly, I'll get caught up here in a couple of these. So Adamant says the corner on the Luribita is fairly bad. Then put it in somewhere and give it away for a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what you're going to get out of it.
Give it to a kid.
Pretty much. They can have some fun with it. So on the real, Austin Meadows is a stud. I can see him being consistent 35 home run guy. Sure. So Rick Altum, just getting back in the hobby. Notice there are vintage real estate lots being sold on eBay. Is that a good way to start building a collection? No.
No.
The only reason I say so is that the likelihood is they've been picked through. No, like, let's take this seriously for a second. The likelihood is it's been picked through. The likelihood that no one would have noticed anything of value in it and then put it up on eBay is next to none. If someone identifies something, if they've got any pictures, you're basically grasping blindly in the dark. So the end result is, okay, there is a 1 in a million chances worth you'll get value. Let's say you do. Number one, you'd miss more times than you'd hit. And number two, you'd have to get into such a low price that you almost can't lose. But if if there's a picture worth anything and somebody sees something in it, they'll outbid you.
Yeah.
Unless you want to overpay on something where you're not sure what you're doing. If you're just getting back in the hobby, I would reduce the amount of variance. That's the way I'll call it. I'll call it variance. So I would honestly, if I'm just getting started, I would start with singles. Just control what you're buying at first. Just keep it simple. And the second question is, why are modern boxes so expensive? Supply and demand. Right now, people are willing to pay a premium for that stuff just to open it, to gamble. That's the reason why. That's it.
And those lots, you don't want to pay 30 pounds of shipping for that much pro set.
Yeah, and you really don't know what you're getting.
Because you'll get some in there.
Yeah, I'm saying there is always the 1 in a million possibility you'll get something. But you'll miss so many times that it's like the math doesn't work. Math works against you.
It only happens in those stories one time out of the millions of times that you hear stories. It's that one story.
And you usually hear about the one time it worked and not the billions of times it didn't.
Yeah.
So this is about Jenner here. Has 3 cards in it, actually. Jenner also has an 83 Topps Olympic grades. At least it's made by Topps, so that's something.
That's the one I was talking about. Yeah, the Olympic grades.
Gotcha. So I'm still waiting for my curling cards to get their due. Keep hoping, Aussie Card Dad. Keep hoping. Maybe someday. What does a Forrest Gump table tennis rookie card go for? That might be closing in on Ziggy Palfie total. You never know. Table tennis Forrest Gump. It's pretty good. 5-1 final for the Jays. Very cool. I might be the exception to the hobby rule, but I consider and collect cards from the player's rookie year and consider them all rookies. No, that's there's a segment of the market that would agree with you. Yep. So no reason not to. Why not? Like I said, the reason I say I don't care about the rookie card is because for most players, the rookie cards aren't that exciting. Like on most players, list of cards, it's not the most exciting card. If you're a huge fan of the player, it's like a necessary card because if you really want, it's part of it. But like I said, with Medana's got 9 rookies. They're nice, but it's not the most interesting card. Like it wouldn't get in the top 100 of most interesting cards in the collection.
Well, I would say that for more vintage cards, it's less interesting because you were a rookie and nobody cared. Today, or in the last so many years, definite focus on making the best looking rookie cards.
Sure. But as I said, using the one we talked about last stream, the Gretzky Opeachy rookie. Let's say you've got money and that's not the issue. So you go buy a Gretzky Opeachy rookie, you buy a Topps rookie. You want to collect Gretzky. Okay, now what? Well, now there's so many options. Now you can go in a million directions. You can go memorabilia. You can go autographs. You can go a whole bunch of stuff. And by the way, you can find stuff that looks way more interesting. Mm-hmm. You can find a refractor version of the rookie where it's like the rookie, but it's a more recent item. It's not the rookie card. It's a more recent thing, but it's got a refractor on it. And if you like the shiny cards, it's like that is the same general design, but it's a more interesting aesthetic. If you don't care about that, well, then pick something else that's a little more interesting to you. Mm-hmm. It really depends on what your objective is. For me, it's like, as a collector, if I'm collecting my player, of course I'm going to get the rookie, but then it kind of goes on the side. Okay, I've got it. Now what else can I pick up? What else is of interest to me? And that's where there's a whole universe full of interesting stuff, potentially.
Yeah, make a focus on what you really want to chase down. If you're too random, you'll lose sight of what you're trying to go forward, and you'll end up with an array of different cards that you don't even really how to even organize. So just collect who you want, who you enjoy, and make a little run of certain things. Set your goals, and before you reach those goals, reset them again and figure out what you really want.
Yeah, but that's the reason why I like the strategy of when you're getting started buying the singles, because guess what? If it turns out you didn't like it, well, great. You're only in it for a couple of cards. You've controlled potentially
Sell
the
them.
cost. You can sell them. You can trade them off. Do whatever. It's not a. You don't have to invest. Most people tend to run before they walk, before they crawl. So it's like, well, get a couple of cards, see if you even like the stuff, and then, oh, you know what? Actually, I like that more. Okay, grab a couple of those. See how you like that. Okay, I like that more. Great. So continue pursuing that path, and see if it fit, because you just got to find whatever the path is that fits your budget, fits your aesthetic, fits your taste. Then you're probably going to get more value out of it than if you start randomly going all over the place.
Yeah, you have to look forward to mail day.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Who doesn't want to get mail?
True. I got some mail today and I was pleased with it. So,
Oh.
yes, I'll share that on the weekend. We'll get to there. We'll get there.
Ah, gotta wait.
Oh, yes.
You gotta wait to see my cards too.
True. Yeah. No worries, Rick. Appreciate that. Appreciate the question. Autograph Vault says Facebook Marketplace is a good way to find lots at a good price. Well, Bobby's a big fan of the Facebook option for a lot of different stuff. And in your local area, found a basketball collection, 77 to 81 for $70. There was a Bird Johnson rookie, no pick of it in the listing, and it graded a PSA 6. Solid. Real good.
Hey, paid for itself and then some.
Yep. If the person doesn't know what they have, it's always, like I said, it is possible, but it's got to be, most of the time you don't get something that narrow. Most of the time it's like a really random assortment of like, this person collected. It's like, yeah, what? And then you end up with cases of 1990 Donruss. And you're like, oh yeah, carried away. It's like, what am I going to do with this? Nothing. You're not going to do anything. Kindling. That's what you're going to do with it. Because otherwise it's no good for you. Even if you try to give it away to kids, they're like, who the heck is this? Who's Todd Van Poppel? Exactly. Exactly my point. Sounds good. All right. Sounds good. So what we'll do here is we're coming up on 2 hours, so I think that's pretty good for tonight. What we'll do, guys, is any last-minute questions or thoughts, I will be happy to take them. Thank you. Appreciate your comments, your thoughts. The chat's been really fun. We had a little bit of enjoyment. We'll be back. I've had it on scrolling at the bottom of the screen here. We'll be back on Friday evening. We'll hang out again, and if there's something else that comes up, we'll expand upon it and talk about that some more. But at least from the graded perspective, we've had a chance to get through a little bit of that and talk through it. We'll see what happens. Like I said, SGC could double its price or triple its price by the end of the week, for all we know. We'll see how busy they get. It'll be really dependent. I'll be interested to see, because Sports Card Investor did throw some endorsement behind them, and they accept bulk grading. So if they start getting big piles of bulk grading, we'll see. We'll see if suddenly they reach their capacity and have to start adjusting accordingly. It'll make the market a little bit more interesting, I think, for the next little while. So we'll have some fun with that.
For sure. Well, thanks everybody for tuning into the show. I had a good time jumping in there for a few minutes. It's not the Insert Revolution podcast, but we're mocking it up to be something similar for you, Dave.
Just
and
for you,
Steve,
Dave.
Wherever Steve is.
Yes, Steve's off in the ether. He's off doing what hockey oracles do. So it's good.
No Bob today.
Yes. Well, Bob's off. Bob's here in spirit, I'm sure. One thing I was going to say as well is that in that same vein, we'll give him a little plug here at the end. Usually on Tuesdays, the Insert Revolution podcast of that name. Usually you can check it out around the time slot that I started this one. It's around 8:05-ish on Tuesdays. And that's when they do their thing. A little different format, but we just thought we'd pop on here. Like I said, this one's impromptu. Usually I'm doing my thing on Friday, and that's usually the normal time, and that's what we'll stick with, I think, for the rest of the summer at least, as we kind of go in, and I think it works. And we'll definitely have to see. So I'll grab the last couple of comments, and then we'll wind her down. So good evening. Thanks, Josh, for that. Appreciate it. Autograph Vault checks Marketplace. Yep. See you Friday, Autograph Vault. Appreciate that. So thank you to Autograph Vault. Appreciate everybody else. If you're on your way out, if you could, hit the like button. Would appreciate that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. We'll do the thing usually on Fridays, and that's the way it goes. But any questions or comments, if you put it in the link later, that's usually how I see it. Or you can send it to the Instagram there, and I'll read it the best I can and reply when I can. Good evening, Aussie Card Dad. Thank you for popping in. Have yourselves a good night, guys. Thank you very much for popping in, and we'll catch you on Friday.
I know.